In my opinion, the safety bar good morning is probably the only way that people should be doing a good morning based exercise with load. Typically what I find is that the position that you can get into with the safety bar and the amount of flexibility that it allows for you to adjust the movement whilst you're going through it, it's just an easier movement to progress. It's a safer movement to progress, and therefore it's going to be better for you in the long term. When we look at it from the side, effectively what we're doing is a Romanian deadlift, but the load is up here instead of being close towards the ground. The range of motion that you go into will be dictated by how flexible your hamstrings are, how flexible your hips are. But realistically, we want to try and make sure that we have a straight spine position when we're in our end range of motion here. So if you get to the bottom here and you have a rounded back position, it's probably not going to be the best for you over a long period of time. And so a common cue to get into the right position can be push your bum back, bring your chest up, and try and elongate your spine. If you think about pulling your belly button through and on purposely arching your back a little bit, what ends up happening is you actually end up with a straight spine at the end of the movement. And when you stand up again, you need to focus on making sure that you tuck the pelvis back under again, because if you constantly think about pulling your belly button through, you'll end up being in an overarched position at the top. So it may take some time to get used to trying to do all of those things at the same time. From a weight distribution perspective, you want to try and make sure that the weight is even across your foot throughout the entire range of motion. As your hips go back, the weight is moving forwards. So you're going to be constantly counteracting those two opposing forces to make sure that you stay balanced on your feet. If you are balanced on your feet, your brain is more likely to give the muscles that are involved the strength to be able to tolerate more load. If when you do this exercise and you're at this point here, if your brain is scared and it feels like it's going to fall over, it's not going to give you the strength to be able to continually progress through this exercise. And that's one of the main attributes that happens with strength training. Your brain is coordinating all of the musculature to be able to tolerate more and more load through the movement. One more thing on the side view is the reason that I like the safety bar when doing this exercise is as you hinge over and you get towards this position here, you can make the force around your hip slightly less by pulling this part of the pad towards your feet, because what that does is it moves the weight closer to the pivot point, so it'll make it a little bit lighter around your hips. However, if you want to stay at a certain weight and you want to increase the level of difficulty, if as you get towards this bottom point here, you push this upwards, it'll move the weight further away from your hips. So it'll increase the amount of rotational force around the pivot point, and it'll increase the amount of work that is required to be performed by this set of muscles and these sets of joints. So it's a nice way to be able to increase the difficulty without having to increase the weight, or decrease the difficulty without decreasing the weight. And for that reason, I think it's one of the best exercises that you can do to increase the amount of strength and the amount of load that your lower back, glute and hamstrings can tolerate. And it is definitely a different movement to a Romanian deadlift. So people will have this exercise in conjunction with Romanian deadlifts in their program. I find that this exercise puts a little bit more pressure towards the spinal structure, whereas Romanian deadlifts tend to put a little bit more pressure towards the hamstrings and the glutes.